Well, good morning, everybody. This is Coach Wellington, and we are back in class with I Represent the 2%. Today, our guest, USA Track and Field Hall of Famer, UCLA, University of California, University of California at Los Angeles, Track and Field Hall of Famer, Steve Lewis. Oh my goodness. Multiple gold medalist, Olympian, representative of the states as a teen,
Yeah.
International competitor, all around good guy,
Yeah.
father, businessman, bodybuilder, great teammate, and he's here and he's here with us today. Steve, welcome, brother. Welcome.
Good to see you. Good to see you, man. Good to be here. Good to be here.
Well, as I said, it's my privilege to have you and host you. We are this platform. I started doing this podcast so I could just record some thoughts, and then I was sitting there. I was like, you know what? I need to catalog, some of the people that have influenced my generation and led from a young age on and so forth. And so anyway, here we go. So way back, man, way back. You've had a storied career. Olympics in '88, Olympics in '92, UCLA age group record. But before all of that, you ran for the little people, and my good friend and mentor, Coach James Robertson, and with the LA Jets. What got you? What was the first thing? Who took you to practice, and who said, "Hey, Steve, I think this would be a great idea for you to get out there"?
Well, I mean, again, great to be here. Yeah, I mean, so it started actually on the playground. I grew up in LA, and the Ronald Moore, Coach Moore.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Moore.
Absolutely.
He actually came after me. I was going to Hyde Park Elementary School at the time.
Oh yeah.
And one of my best friends, Darwin Wadsworth, he was Los Angeles Jet at the time. Right before the Los Angeles Jets, they were the West Vernon Jets.
Okay.
But I was the fastest kid on the playground. I mean, I was in third grade, and I was approached by Mr. Moore, Ronald Moore, and he asked if would be interested to run track for my team. I'm like, oh sure, But I said, let me go ask my mom first, right? I wanted to. And so my mom said, great, yeah, keep your butt busy, and and there I was. So at the time we worked out at Crenshaw High School.
All right.
I didn't go far away, so it was a dirt track, obviously.
Yep.
And so I would walk to practice, walk to and from practice, every day to Crenshaw High School and then back home and on that dirt track. And of course, that's where I met my coach, James Robertson, and the rest is history.
So what were was there a meet as a youngster, as you mentioned just a moment ago, you were the fastest kid on the playground. So you already knew on a local level that you were the dude. You're 9 years old and you're like, yeah, I'm rolling. I'm whipping these kids. Anybody want to step up, no problem. But once you got into the team environment, was there a meet that you attended that solidified? You're like, okay, I'm not just Hyde Park fast, but I'm LA fast, and I'm Cali fast, and so on and so forth.
It really wasn't a meet. Let me say this about the Los Angeles Jets. Now, I was the fastest on my playground, right? And so, the Los Angeles Jets basically had kids from all over the city, some of the best. So, yeah, I mean, they were just as talented, some more talented than me, right? I mean, so I had to earn my way, right? So, I mean, we had a lot of fast guys and gals on the girls' team, on LA Jets. I mean, LA Jets was the best of the city.
Yes.
And so, we had to earn our spots. I mean, we had depth, right? I mean, in the sprints and in the distance, just to be on the relays, we had, the A, B, and C groups, and we could all compete, right? And so, practice was competitive, right? And on that dirt track, but I was still, really good. And if there was this one meet that kind of just clicked it on for me, and it was actually, an experience where, James was my coach, obviously, but I was, I don't know, maybe 13 or so. And, I was winning all my races for the most part. And the 400, I ran the 200, I ran hundreds and what have you. This one particular meet, I just wasn't feeling it that day, right? I mean, I just was nervous. The butterflies felt like they had roller skates on, right? And bouncing around in my stomach. And so, Coach James warmed me up, right? And after my warm up, he said, "Okay, take some time, and they're going to call you for a race." My plan was to, I'm going to disappear. I don't want to run this race. I'm just not into it. I'm nervous, and so I disappeared. So I kind of hid behind a building at whatever track meet this was, thinking, okay, I'm going to miss this race. And then so after some time had elapsed, I figured, let me think of an excuse that I can say on, what happened. So of course, I'm walking up, James is walking toward me. He said, "Hey, they just called your race." I'm like, oh, so like, oh man. So, that's just how those track meets are. As you track meets, on and on and on and on. I'm thinking
all day.
I'm thinking, okay, I can wait an hour. I'm going to miss this race. So anyway, so I went out actually and I raced and I ran very well. And so that taught me, right? You know what I said, as long as you're prepared and you believe in yourself and you go out there and do what you're prepared to do, you're going to do well. You're going to do your best.
There you go.
And so, and just fast forward, I remember being at the Olympics in '88, thinking back at that moment when I doubted myself, I was nervous, scared, and I realized, you know what, there's nothing more I can do at that point, when I step to the track that's going to make me any faster, right? It's not like I'm going to go run a fast stride that's going to make me running fast. No, I'm prepared as prepared as I'm going to be. So
yes,
I have to put my best foot forward. And so it was just that moment for me where it just kind of clicked, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. This is what I'm meant to do. So yeah, so it wasn't just, I had this successful race, or it was, it was the doubt that led to that race, right?
Yes.
And I just had to overcome that. But yeah, I had a lot of experiences like that. But yeah, that was it. That was that moment for me.
That's tremendous. That's tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, there was, I was up last night and I was watching some old videos, and, I have somewhere around here, still have my VHS of, of 92, because I have basketball, I have Dream Team basketball, I have, Bob Costas interviews and different things. And I came across something, I wasn't looking for that, I was on YouTube, but I came across a race you ran in at the Golden West up at Sac City or at Cal.
California meet though.
Yeah, definitely. So, for those that don't know, the Golden West is a 19 and under, 19U track meet, and it's not club, it's not school, it's just individuals coming out. You can put a team together, all stars and so forth. And so, you were running, there were guys from all over the nation, fastest guys, and the quarter starts, and about 250, there's another guy next to you, and Eddie
Miller,
yeah. And I always at practice, I'm always, and with high school guys, I'm always telling them, stay within yourself, keep something left for the scoreboard, because when you get to the scoreboard, you got 150 left, and now it's time to start going, right? It's time to start picking it up. And I guess he had, no offense to Eddie, but he had shot his wad at 250. He started, the knees started lifting for you, and they started dropping for him. And it was great. So leading from American high school, you show up at UCLA, and how was that coming on campus, growing up in Los Angeles, moving up north for a period, and then showing up at UCLA with this, the mecca of multicultural, intellectual ability, and of course, athletic supremacy, from the wooden teams, from Coach Bush's teams, and all from skates with volleyball, I mean, gymnastics, just everything fantastic. So how was that showing up on campus?
So yeah, so in LA, there are two schools that matter really. USC or UCLA, right? So as a kid, I always wanted to go to UCLA. I mean, it's in beautiful Westwood. In fact, I remember again when I competed with the Los Angeles Jets, we had a relay we put together for the Jesse Owens games.
Okay, yes.
And trying to think who was on that relay with me. We're myself, actually James's son at the time, Ronnie Coleman and maybe Lavelle. Anyway, it was young kids. We competed at the Jesse Owens games at Drake Stadium. I'm like, man, this is where I want to be. And I almost didn't go to UCLA because they didn't recruit me. I mean, it was, you have 5 recruiting trips you can take, right? And so in high school, I went to LSU on a recruiting trip. That was a great trip. Texas A&M, they eat a lot of steak out there, a lot of beef. And Kansas, the problem with Kansas is they brought me in when it was still snow on the ground. It was a beautiful campus, but I can't go from LA. And I took a recruiting trip to USC, right? And UCLA still hadn't called me or contacted me. And this is like, it was getting close to having to make a decision. So I literally was about to sign to go to USC. And then out of the blue, I get a call. We get a call from UCLA, and then Coach Bob Larson and John Smith went up to my home, and I was living in Fremont, California. So they were, just like recruiting goes, they were in the living room sitting down, my mother and I, and saying, you're going to take care of your kid and all this. And we have all these great guys at UCLA that you can compete with, of course. Danny Everett, Henry Thomas, Kevin Young, Mike Marsh, right? And then all the history goes back to Flojo, Evan Nash, or Greg Foster, right? Willie Banks. So I'm like, man. And so, fast forward now, okay, when I obviously I signed, I said, yeah, I want to come to UCLA. And so just going on that campus and just, going out to Drake Stadium, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, a lot of anxiety, obviously, because, okay, I had all the success in high school and leading up, but now I'm on the big stage, right, with all these great athletes and just the program. I mean, I think even, I don't know, maybe still today, UCLA has more national championships than any other school. Obviously, we do more sports than a lot of, but
absolutely.
Yeah, so it was the history, right? It was incredible. So I'm like, this is cool. So yeah, I was a little overwhelmed, but I had to just try to, get in where I fit in, right, very, very quickly. Unfortunately, it worked out, but yeah, it was overwhelming initially. Absolutely.
Now, in the same way, when I asked you about like one particular meet maybe that secured it, was there one class that that was really, you read the syllabus and you're looking like, oh my goodness, but that you stepped up and really recognized, okay, yes, this is going to be a good fit?
I was actually a pretty good student.
I'm not shocked.
I was a history major. All the classes, just that experience. And then just, I'm trying to think, and, it's not as, the African-American, there weren't many African-American, fortunately for athletes, we kind of stuck together. So it was, but, it was just really trying to fit in.
Yes.
I've had situations with certain professors who were, they would kind of, pigeonhole me or certain athletes, and just because you're Black or you're from, but I got past that. We got past that. But
sure,
it was more of those experiences, right? Okay. But overall, the classes were great. I had a tutor that I worked with. A lot of athletes did, and it was kind of a big thing at that time, because they were concerned with these kids coming from the inner city. We just want to make sure that they can cope with being an athlete, obviously, and then the training, and then with the schoolwork. But no, it was a really good experience for me, academically, athletically, socially. Learned a lot. It was great. It was great.
Okay. So you get to UCLA, you're a big time freshman recruit, although UCLA comes to the party late to recruit you. Danny Effort's the big dog at the time. And not the, and was there a moment, was there the elder minor, was there a point in practice when you said, okay, I can get him? Was there a meet when you kind of felt like, well, I can't go past my teammate? Did you ever deal with any of that kind of stuff? Or, he's older than me a little bit of it. Was there ever that kind of, this is he's the man in the quarter, I got to play second fiddle? Or did you come in saying, I'm about to take that spot? What was your thought process there?
No, I wanted to get in and take him out. So okay. it wasn't just Danny. I mean, Henry Thomas.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Kevin Young, and Mike Morris, but Danny in particular, because we ran the same event. And in fact, I mean, we're best friends, but we trained together. I mean, those workouts. I mean, we trained at the UCLA Drake Stadium, and man, it was incredible. But we complement each other, right? So it was one of those things. I actually ran better in races when Danny was in it, and he would say the same.
Nice. Because
I mean, I can kind of gauge, like if I was slipping, he'd make sure that I'm there, right? So we just kind of worked off each other, and we ran well. Nice. But my plan was to always, I remember in '88, this is the Olympic year actually, Pac-10 championships at that time. And then that season, actually my freshman year, I had, I had a really good fall training, very good fall training. But then I started having shin splint problems. Okay. And so I couldn't train as much. But my coach John Smith at the time was like, okay, well, don't worry, we got a good foundation. And coming to UCLA, I mean, I hadn't lifted weights until I got to college. I never lifted weights in high school or before, so everything was new to me, right? And so just that training, and I had the shin splints. And then finally, I started running some meets in the spring, but the Pac-10 championships was really kind of my coming out party, really, because in the Open 400, Danny was in there, and he took it out, but I was right there with him. And it was one of those things that he say I ran against Danny like I didn't know any better, like I didn't realize it was Danny Everett, like Danny was competing world class at the time and running in Europe. And we came off the curve. I mean, you can go find some of that video on YouTube. Oh yeah. But I was on him the whole way, right, until he kind of broke away from me. But I ran. That was the first time I broke the world junior record. Yes. In the 400 meters. I ran a 44.65, and I just turned 19. Danny, he ran like a 44.3, but still, it was, But I was like, okay, at that moment, okay, I felt like, I'm feeling Danny. I feel like I can, and I just had to keep just staying with him and going out and feeling confident, right? It's one of those, my whole philosophy of running is that you have to go out there and challenge yourself and push yourself, because eventually you're going to keep going. I mean, it's just, you have to not be afraid to fail or to die. I mean, you're going to feel lactic acid either way. So I just always felt like I needed to go out. And that all started back when I was running with the Jets, just how we trained. But, it was just, I just kept going. So anyway, that same meet, John, the coach, put me on the mile relay, but he didn't have Danny on there. He didn't put Kevin on there. He didn't put Mike on there. He didn't put Henry on there, right? He left it all on my plate, right? So I ran anchor leg, and I think I got the baton in third place or something like that. So Anthony, I had to run down some folks, but I ran like a 43 high in my, and we won. But that was the moment. Okay, I feel like I can do this, right? I feel like I can take it to the next level. I mean, I was running fast. that was at Drake, right? That was at Drake, Pac-10 championships. Yeah, and I believe Anthony Washington passed you the baton that day. Yeah, Anthony passed me the baton, and he trying to think, was he? Well, he got the baton. I think he was in second place, and then he got the lead, and somebody else got him at the straight, so he got the baton in third. Which is fine. But the fact that John had the confidence in me to just, okay, without our top guys, right? I was the only guy on our original team, right? Our A squad. And I had to run, so which was fine. I was ready for that. Well, that
you mentioned weights and age group in high school and not having any experience with that. Um, Obviously, it didn't hurt you. Do you feel like um, today's athletes start training heavy or with resistance training too early in some cases, or maybe focus more on that than they should on their technique?
Well, for one, I feel like you gotta have balance, right? And so, at that point, I did weights, and then it wasn't until I transitioned and started running with Santa Monica Track Club that I even started doing more plyometrics, which is kind of bounding and explosiveness, right? So I do feel I see some things, I don't think young kids should be lifting like that. I think, they're still growing and you can kind of affect their growth. I mean, it's just,
Yes.
You can't start too early. And now resistance training is fine,
Yes.
as long as you, moderation, right?
Yes.
And, I just felt for me, and in high school, you can lift, but for like age group, too much. I mean, I just don't, I'm all about core training, some resistance training. You do want to expose kids to certain things, but I think you can overkill and hurt them.
Yes.
Not to mention, it's not just, you have to think about how it affects them structurally with their back and their spine. I've had 2 back surgeries, so I know that you can't mess with that back.
Yeah.
Once you start messing with that back at a young age, you're going to have all sorts of issues, right? And so you have to allow, the athlete to grow and get strong enough to handle, just their own body weight and doing certain things before you start trying to load them up with a lot of weights, because, you'll have problems.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I attended a Nike clinic in Culver City a few years back, and John Smith, pardon me, the great John Smith was the keynote speaker that day. And there were all level of coaches there, but there were a couple of high school coaches and age group guys that just kept trying to hunker him down with, what are some of your favorite workouts? And he was trying to explain to them, says, listen, at HSI, whether I'm at UCLA or coaching HSI, what I do is cater to the athlete, and the athlete I'm working with are world class. They're professionals. They're, they have money for supplements. They have money to, eat right. They have, they're training, all of these different things. What we're doing is not what you're doing. So he was trying to help them frame, a mindset of coaching. And so he finally gave them something, and they were like, oh yeah, we can't do that. It's like, I told you. Steve, you mentioned, some of your great classmates that ended up, on the '88 team with you, and classmates and just UCLA alum, Flojo, Mike Marsh, your classmate Danny Everett, Kevin Young, all these guys, and then Andrew Valman, you guys were there in Seoul making it happen. Was that your first time leaving the States?
For Korea?
Yes, to go to Korea, Seoul, Korea.
No. So my after no, I completed a year before Korea, which and so after.
Oh, that's right. Yes, post
NCAA season. Yeah, I went over and ran some races, and actually I went one of my first meets in Europe. Again, this is before Korea. I ran in Lausanne, Switzerland, and actually tied my time that I ran at the Pac-10. So I tied the World Junior record again, and that was the second time.
Nice.
And I ran some more meets, and again, before the Korea Olympics, I ran a race in Zurich, Switzerland, where Butch Reynolds dropped a 43:29 on me and Danny. That's where he broke that world record. So no, you could lead it before the Korea games. No, I had quite a bit of experience kind of dealing at that high level, right? Just going to big meets, big competitions with, fans. And so, yeah, going into Korea in 88, I was, because of that exposure and that experience on that level, all those European meets, I felt, at least my mindset was where it needed to be. I knew what it was like to compete. I mean, although, California, state meets are huge, the crowds, but you're thinking about a stadium of 100,000 people. It was
a little different,
different level.
Yeah. So 88, open quarter, Seoul, Korea. 19 years old. As you said, just a matter of a few weeks before, Butch Reynolds has dropped the world record on you. You step out there, and I don't know the stadium capacity, 70,000, maybe more. 80?
At least 80,000, yeah.
So again, you go back to that meet where you're trying to, get away. You're trying, looking for a Snicker, right? Trying to want to get away. and are you thinking, this is my day? I've seen Butch. I know what he's got, and I can get this guy. Or is he just, one of those other guys in a lane? And at that time, it's just clear the mechanism, focus on me. Let's get this done.
So it was always, I mean, it goes back to, I felt prepared, and I had to run my race, and, and I was, and actually I had a conversation with Coach James, he reminded me, but, it was one of those things of, I wasn't predicted to win. It was obviously Butch, he was just 43-29. They thought Danny Everett, my teammate, would take second. And the hope was, Steve Lewis, this young freshman from UCLA, would take third, so we could have an American sweep. Yes. And, Butch ran a 43-29, but, just as James reminded me, it's like I didn't need to run a 43-29 to beat him, because we didn't feel like Butch was going to try to run that. Butch was, he was fast. Don't get me wrong. And I think for me, because he was in lane 2 or 3, and I was out in lane 6, and I had Danny between us.
Okay.
Right? And then I had Innocent Egbaniki to my outside, who, we call him the rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But, me going into that race, and I had really good rounds. My prelim, my semi, I felt great. And so I just felt like I needed to get out, right? And if I came off that curve, in front, it was over. And I don't think Butch thought I was out there like that, right? Because he really couldn't see me engage me. He just sat back, because he was a strong finisher.
Sure.
But it goes back to, like, you talk about that race back at Golden West, where at 250, that was where I kind of transitioned.
Yes.
In all my races, if you look at all the film, YouTube, I always worked on reacting in that second curve before my competitors. If I did, they now have to react to me, and they're not running their race. So I'm starting to pick it up and build up, and I'm coming off, and now they're off, right? And so as long as I did that, and just kind of, because even with Danny, a lot of times he would do it before me, but I kind of like, I got to get out, and I kind of just boom, that you're coming down to that home stretch, and I just held on. And then I think Butch didn't realize, oh shit, he's out there. And so at that point, I'm just holding on, trying to keep my form, and I'm ahead, right? Because I don't think I've ever been like, coming down a home stretch, ever been run down, right? It's one of those things, in the quarter, that last, the last straight, if you maintain, it's and you're strong, right? And then you relax, it's really hard for somebody to kind of overtake you. As long as, you get some momentum come off, and I never had anybody ever kind of get me afterwards. So I knew if I come off ahead, that I had a good chance of maintaining across the line. And Butch came at the end, but I just didn't break form. And I was ahead of Danny where I'm normally not. Usually coming off, Danny's right next to me or a little ahead of me. This was the first time really in a race that mattered where I was ahead of Danny coming off. And I'm like, okay, there's something different going on, right? So yeah, I mean, it was just, I had to run my best race, and I did, it was perfect race.
Man, fantastic.
Yeah.
So next couple of days, you guys come back, you tie the Olympic record, which from Mexico State, 60-18. And you go home with 2 golds, and you're heading back to school as a big time sophomore. There's no,
yeah.
you didn't, you weren't, signing a contract and coming out early, at that time. How was that returning to campus as an Olympic champion?
Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah, I had to go back to school. So no, it was great, man. I mean, it was. I mean, in UCLA, I mean, I was an Olympic gold medalist, but you talk about excellence. I mean, we still had high level individuals on campus, which was a beautiful thing, right? I mean, I'm thinking about, Troy Aikman was still there at football. We had, my buddy Pooh Richards. I mean, we just had, athletics.
Yeah.
So I came back, all the, football players, basketball players, they were always, they obviously respected me and all that, but it was just a good feeling, I mean, just to be amongst all these other great athletes, not just athletics, just the academics. I mean, I think about some of my classmates now, are doing some big things in, all different areas, right? And so, yeah, I just felt like I belonged, I fit in, and I'm back, right? But I still had to take classes and go, study and do all that, but and train and try to duplicate that performance. But yeah, it was great. It was great.
Cool. And I didn't mean to run away from Seoul Korea that quickly, because you mentioned the likelihood of not running somebody down in the last straight. And Flojo obviously had a great 88, right, world record in the 1 and the 2, and she ran the anchor leg on the 4x4, and she was in position riding the leader, and she wasn't able to overtake her.
That's where she stayed the whole way. Yeah.
So you're back on campus, and the Olympics are 4 years away, and anything we know anything can happen in a 4-year stretch.
Oh,
yeah. Are you just going about your day-to-day business, taking care of school, training, doing your thing, and is that the first thought in the morning for those next 4 years? I got to get back to the Olympics, or is it what was your thought process?
Yeah, and of course, now, they say track and field is an amateur sport, but I was just looking forward to competing in Europe every year. They have the world championships on the, every 2 years, on those off years, whatever. So it was always some major competition.
Yes.
But yeah, I was trying to get back to, the 92 Olympics, and I had, in 1990, I got really sick. I was in Europe, and I came down with some virus. It was Lyme disease or something, but I was sick for an entire year. My body was depleted. I couldn't train. I was, walking on campus. I mean, I just, shell of my former self. Whereas, 2 years prior, I was, the epitome of physicality, right? I mean, I was an Olympic champion, but in 90, I literally could not work out. I mean, I tried, but I just kept showing up because that's all I knew, right? I mean, since I was a kid. And so I didn't think I would be able to make it back to the Olympics in 90 after that, after my experience in 90 with the illness. And, and I ended up changing coaches, around that time as well. So 92, it would have been nice, I was thinking, but I just physically, I wasn't there. My body was depleted. But, after a year, just as suddenly as that virus hit me, it just went away. So now in 91, I have about a year and a half to try to get ready to make another Olympic team. And, fortunately, I made another team. I wasn't my strongest self by any means, but I was, good enough to make the team and win a couple more medals. But yeah, I think for most athletes, Olympics that's that, because that's what, society looks at the Olympics as all that. But I mean, I do want to say that, even, you have athletes that, never made an Olympic team, but they were hot on a world championship or whatever. And I mean, they're just as great. You just never know when you're going to be ready in your year. I mean, obviously everybody thinks about the Olympics because we build it up so much.
Yeah.
It's international. But I mean, I also wanted to do these world championships. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do world championships because I was always injured, but I was able to make the Olympic teams.
Yes.
And, I'm grateful for that and was fortunate. But, the timing is everything. I mean, I think about now with the Olympics, last year was canceled, right? The athletes that would have, could have, and now may not, because last year would have been their year, regarding age, injury, whatever it is.
Yes.
And now to 2021, the athletes that will make it in 21, probably weren't the same ones that would have made it in 20. I mean, you just never know. It's just every year, depending on how you develop and how you grow. I mean, fortunately for me, when I was 19, it was just right then, and maybe I would have been stronger at age 21 and 88, maybe not. I would have been injured. You just never know.
Yep.
So timing is everything. So to just shoot for just the Olympics, no, you just want to be. I wanted to be the best that I could be every year, and always just try to run faster and faster. So I wanted to make the Olympic team, and that's kind of always in my mind. But I wanted to break records. I wanted to just be my best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Breaking records. Back 92, you make it back, and I wasn't aware you were down for a whole year. That's amazing, man. And I you mentioned your UCLA teammates, and one of them you talking about sick for a period and coming back with Gail Devers, your teammate on campus and 92. Gail's story is just, it doesn't get, this generation, isn't as familiar, and hopefully they'll re-up her biopic that they did, from a while back. But there was a moment before the finals, before the men's relay finals in 92, an open quarter, and it may be the most iconic imagery from that Olympic Games, which was Derek Redmond, pulling up and limping his way for 50, 75 meters, and then his dad coming out of the stands for the last little bit. Were you in the stadium at that time, or did you hear about it, or were you on the track with him? That's the funny thing about like significant moments, like some overshadow the other. Yeah. Actually, I was in the race and I won that race, but I was sitting here. No, so this was the semifinal in the '92 Olympics, the 400. Yes. Yes.
And let me put a little color and texture to that. So Derek Redmond, good friend of mine, actually.
Okay.
Back when I was training at UCLA with Danny Everett and Kevin Young and Henry Thomas and Mike Marsh, because of our success, we had a lot of international runners coming to train with us at times, right? And so one year, Derek and a couple of the British athletes came to train. I think John Regis, and so that's how we got to know each other back. This is before the '92 Olympics, so we became really good friends.
Nice.
And Derek, he worked hard. He trained hard. Like most athletes. Sure. And in '92, he was ready. And unfortunately, injuries happen, right? And so this is the semifinal in the 400 meters at the '92 Olympics.
Yep.
And like any other race, so I go out and I'm trying to advance to the finals, and Derek is I think he's in the inside of me. And so I win, right? And I kind of walk out. All of a sudden, there's all this commotion going on in the stadium. Mm-hmm. And I look to the teleprompter, right? This is after the race, and I'm looking at the video. And so Derek pulls up on the back stretch. He refuses to stop, and he looks around, right? And his father jumps out of the stands to help him cross the line. And the officials, you talk now that wouldn't happen now, but they were trying to get him out. He wouldn't have been able to get on the field, but he's holding his son, Derek Redmond,
Yeah.
across the line. So if you talk about, perseverance and never getting up,
Yes.
I mean, that's the perfect, an ad. Nike, in fact, there have been many ads that use, like I think Visa used that clip in a commercial, just talk about overcoming for the Olympics to promote it. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely an incredible moment. Obviously, it was more significant to me, finishing first in my semifinal round. But I mean, what it did, the imagery of it is, wow, never give up, right? He crossed the line. I mean, he didn't walk away from there with a medal at the Olympics, but, he went away knowing, hey, I finished what I started. And I mean, I can't feel bad about it, and that's what that was. I mean, it was powerful moment.
Yeah. Well, another powerful moment was, your crosstown rival and shortly soon to be teammate, young man out of Hawthorne, not Henry Thomas, but Quincy.
Quincy went to Taft. Quincy went to Taft.
Oh Lord,
Taft High School.
you're right. You're right. Goodness gracious, man. See, this is what happens. This is what happens when we miss 15 months of being out. Like now, I'm still my school. At my college, we're still training. We're like one of the, I believe we're the only college right now that's meeting and training in track and field in community college.
Yeah.
And I would, that's hilarious. Yeah, I'm sorry. So this cat, big as all outdoors. In '92, I'm a freshman. I'm at West LA, and guys used to come over. You guys would come over and run the backside of the hill. I don't know if you guys would ever come, but
I wasn't. He did with John and yeah.
Okay, because you were changed coaches at this time.
Yeah, Santa Monica Track Club.
Okay. But I'm sitting here. The first time I met him, I said, man, that dude's big, man. He must be like, strong safety or something like that. Like, no, that's Quincy Watts, man. That's a quarter miler. I was like, what? That big old brother? So, so you come out, you're healthy, you're ready to rock. You're not as strong as, you may have been, having missed some time, but, you get back to the finals and, you let it do what it do. Tell us about that experience.
Oh, well. Yeah, and it's funny. And Quincy, he didn't like the 400 anyway. He nobody likes the quarter. But he was just good. He was a strong cat, and man, he was a tough competitor. But we were age group track. I mean, I was the Lely Jet. He was West Valley Eagles. So, I mean, it was, well, man, just 92 was a crazy year for 400-meter runners. And I don't know if you remember, the Olympic trials that year was a circus because it was in New Orleans, and that was the year that they weren't going to allow Butch Reynolds to compete. And if anyone competed against Butch Reynolds in the trials, we would have been what they call tainted, because he was going through that thing with the Supreme Court trying to compete. So one federation, I forget, the international, maybe the IWF was saying he couldn't run, and the USA Track and Field said he could, but so it was just a lot of conflict at the trials that year. And I mean, we would literally, the quarter milers would warm up in that hot blistering sun, and all of a sudden they're like, oh no, you can't race today because the courts haven't made a decision on if Butch can compete. Oh, wow. So, I mean, we went through a lot just to make that team, right? I mean, so it was Danny Everett, Quincy Watts, Butch Reynolds, myself, Andrew Bauman,
Michael
Jenkins. Michael wasn't. That's another story. Michael didn't. That's another story. But he wasn't in that quarter. There's another story there. Anyway, but I mean, we went through a whole lot, right? And so what ended up happening is we eventually got through it, and they let Butch run. And I think Danny Everett won the trials that year in 400. I took second, and Quincy took third. Butch took fourth or fifth. Okay. But the rounds, I mean, I think Butch and Quincy both ran like, close to 44 flat in their semifinal round, just killing each other. I mean, after all that we went through, I mean, we literally were warming up. We couldn't run. We had to come back later the next day. So you have to double up on some days to run 2 races. I mean, it was tough to get to the 400. So I wanted to give a little background of that. So yeah,
wow, yeah.
Fast forward to now the Olympics. Coming into it, it was just Danny Evans, American, Quincy Watson, myself. Danny gets injured, his Achilles. He was having problems all year. So Danny ran the first 2 rounds at the Olympics, but he went out. He went because of his Achilles. So he didn't make the final. So it was obviously just Quincy and I. And I'm the defending champ, right? So I'm on the outside, give it lane 6 or 7. Yeah, and then Quincy was to my inside. And I took it out, and it wasn't my day. Let me just say that. So no, I mean, I remember running. I took it out hard, probably harder I had to, but I mean, just looking to my inside. I mean, you can feel another runner to know when they're just, they're the better. They're feeling better than you, right? And so I just remember coming off, and he came off the curve, like to my point, ahead of me.
Yeah.
But he was just, I mean, he was strong. He had a fast semifinal. I think he ran like a 43.7 in a semifinal. But I mean, it was his day, his moment. And I mean, I still, was able to play second. But no, I mean, Quincy was amazing that day. He ran his race, and he went out, and I took second. And then, then we ran well in the mile relay together. But I mean, that was an incredible Olympics as well. Yeah.
Well, that Olympics that night, Andrew comes out, passes. That's actually on my sheet here. The pass between it was Quincy to Michael.
Yeah.
Quincy to Michael, Andrew to Quincy, and then Quincy to Michael. And that pass from Quincy to Michael is like, there's, because
it was a sketchy pass.
you see Q's eyes really big, and then Mike's not even looking. He's just like I'm like, what happened to an open pass? Like, and then so he's getting this much. I mean, he literally was fingertips from. So he comes in, hands it to you. You're able to see the big screen, hear the crowd. You got the stadium all to yourself. There's nobody around. It's just you and the record. You talk about those last. I mean, I guess not even that last 250 though. That whole 390 that you were just by yourself with you and the clock.
Yeah, that was incredible. I mean, which I don't understand, right? Like now, how do you? I mean, the crowd pushed me, the reverberation, right? So now you figure, okay, we want to run Olympics with not a full stadium, man. That's terrible because I mean that was the whole experience, right? That's what the energy from the crowd pushes you, right? And so not to have that, right? I mean, I was out there in front, but I felt the crowd, I felt that energy, and that's just that carries you. So to not be able to compete in a full stadium is is a disservice.
Sure. Yeah.
I understand, but it's tough.
Well, also in '92, I mean, there was another group there. You mentioned amateur sport earlier. There was a group of professionals that made the debut. The Dream Team was on site, and did you guys were they in a completely different wing of the Olympic Village? Did they have the millionaire section over there, or were they, around you guys? Did you have a lot of exchange?
And so the Dream Team, I think they even stayed on some ships or something off site. And in fact, I was at Santa Monica Track Club. We didn't stay in the village that year. Okay. We had our own little villa with security, and we just stayed off site. But I did interact with them because I was part of some VIP group, right? And because I was a previous Olympic champion, and I remember in the opening ceremonies and just interacting with the Dream Team, and I remember I was talking to Charles Barkley, and I'm tall, I'm 6'2", right? But I remember we were talking and chatting going down the tunnel into the stadium for the open ceremony. And it just reminded me of that image with Mean Joe Green and that little kid in the commercial. Because Charles is a big cat, right? I'm like, but it was just cool. But I mean, yeah, so I had some interaction with them, but I just remember just talking to him like, man, he's the cat, you know.
Yeah.
But they did come into the village and interact with other athletes, and
Nice.
that was cool. For the first year of the Dream Team, that was awesome.
Yeah, man. That's really good.
Yeah.
So you hang up your international spikes in professional competition career, and where do you go from there? You there's a couple of things. I know you're a family man. I know your wife. I mean, I don't know your wife, but I mean, I know you have a wife. And I know you got two daughters. One also, already an alum, UCLA, and your new training partner. And then, so if you could talk about, what you've been up to recently. In addition, you're being honored in '04 as a Hall of Famer at UCLA. Yeah, just tell us, what you've been up to in these last few summers.
Yeah, so I mean, I deal with everything. So right now, currently, I work for a medical device company. So I sell equipment to hospitals and surgery. I've been doing that for a couple of decades.
Nice.
I have some other little ventures. I mean, I have a product called the OOF ball, which is a medicine ball. It looks, it's a little different from a regular medicine ball. It feels a little bit differently. It bounces differently. It floats. And, just been pushing that. I mean, I got, a bunch of different clients, the Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Pistons,
Okay.
Navy SEALs, different schools, professional athletes, Olympic swimmers. So it's just a different
way
of training from a regular medicine ball. Yeah. And so, yeah, I've been promoting that and just doing, you probably see some of my videos posted.
Okay.
I'm also pretty excited because I've been asked to be part of this crew. It's called Race Across America, right? It's a team. Race Across America is it's the hardest race in the world, where you have cyclists, a team of 8, competing on a trip from San Diego to Annapolis, right? It's a team of 8. It's a 24-hour race over 3,000 miles.
Wow.
And I'm not one of the cyclists, but I'll be part of the team. Team 1 Mile, and our focus is to raise awareness to veterans suffering in silence, be it PTSD, depression, right? So this race that I'll be a part of as a crew member, just supporting the team, it'll be in June. It starts on June 19th, Juneteenth. It's a week-long trip from San Diego to Annapolis. So I'm actually going to San Diego to train with the team now, just to prepare for this big race. But I'm really excited about that because obviously the team 1 Mile, we want to win. But the team consists of, we have like some Navy SEALs that are part of the crew. Tyree Washington, quarter miler.
Oh yes.
Also part of the crew. And we're just working together, for this good cause. And the race just happens to be allows us to do that. And we're gonna have 22 stops along the way. It's gonna be documented.
Nice.
But just raising awareness to our veterans. I mean, you have a lot of veterans and just people in general suffering in silence.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited about that. So that's something that I'm really focused on and happy about.
Please, Steve, say the name of the event one more time.
It's called RAM. So it's a Race Across America. So RAAM. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm part of Team 1 Mile.
Gotcha.
And then you can go to Project Team 1 Mile to see what we're up to. But really excited about the cause for that race for us.
Yes. Okay. Now, and your lovely wife, did you scoop? Who approached too? Were you guys on camp? Is she a Bruin as well?
We met in LA. Yeah, no, we met in LA. Yeah. She came after me. No, I don't. I'm just playing. No, she's originally from Ohio, but she's in LA now. So I met her in LA though.
Cool. All right. So you mentioned the med ball product that you have and that you working on with these professional teams and all. And I'm gonna have to contact you after so I can.
Football, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so I can get one. Yeah, no, I gotta put it in the rotation, man. Well, one of my last questions is about, your physical transformation. Just, physically, you weren't a skinny guy as a runner. You were that, lean, fit, quarter miler buff kind of dude. But since, I saw you at Mount Sac and I was just like, that dude he really looks like Steve Lewis. I'm like, who is that cat? And you're like, man, it's me. What are you talking about? And but your back is like, 8 feet wide, and like, what's going on? And your Atlas pose, holding the globe, like
that was the oof ball.
tricep back there.
That was the oof ball. Yeah, that was the oof ball I was holding.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, so physically, we talked about no weights in high, pre-college. So what if you added to your routine that is not only kept you, lean and fit, which, sometimes that's not the case for former runners, but also, built all this mass on your frame?
So a lot of people don't know is that after I stopped running, not by choice. It's because I actually fell down the stairs during an earthquake, and I landed on my tailbone, and I collapsed my disc L5S1. I was 25. I was still in my prime. Otherwise, I feel like I could have made at least 2 more Olympics. So this was during the Northridge earthquake, and I trying to get out the house. I lived in the valley, slipped, boom, fell on my tailbone, collapsed my disc. That's what ended my running career. So at that point, I realized, so when that happened, I couldn't train really. I couldn't really run. I kept getting injured. I mean, when you lock up your back, any part of your back, it just affects everything. Your gait, you just have nerve pain. You feel sick, really. I mean, because you're hitting your nerves. So I really couldn't work out, and that was frustrating. So, initially after that happened, I stopped running, obviously, because I couldn't do it as much. I started working a lot on my core, and I just really enjoy working out, right? And so I did at that point, and this is 97. I mean, I fell down the stairs at 94, but I still tried to compete a little bit. But because I just couldn't run like I wanted to, I started lifting more, take a little more protein and what have you. But I just really enjoyed working the core and just looking a certain way. And so that's what led to it. Because of my inability to run like I wanted to, but I still needed to feel like I was able to work out and push myself.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of shifted, so I said, I want to, if I didn't really lift like that back then, but I just started lifting more, and then, and just changed, and I just changed, and now I don't, because of the pandemic, I don't lift as much now. I have a Peloton, and I've been preparing for this robot guy, but Roy Martin for this race. So, but no, that's what it was. It was just one of those things. I couldn't run like I wanted to. I just wasn't able. So I had to find another way to kind of get that out, right? To work out like I wanted, because I enjoy working out. I enjoy running. I enjoyed all that. I enjoyed the seeing the improvement in the gains and what have you when I was competing and running. So, I wanted to fill that void some way. So I just started lifting more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned it. You have a match race coming up with the Bionic Man, Steve Lewis, the Hall of Famer, versus Roy the Robot Martin out of Dallas, Texas. Who had for those that don't know, for the longest, he had the national record in the high school 200, 20.0. And I don't know how many programs I've bought and how many Arcadias and CIF finals and just any number of races where it's like that was it. And then I don't even know who broke it, but that was just for my entire fandom career from mid 80s, my dad going to state meets and all the way up coaching, his name has been there. And I've always said I need to see the wind gauge and the video, but
they said all those times in Texas anyway, but No, Roy was
Don't get me in trouble. Don't get me in trouble. I got family in Texas. But so what led to this event coming up? Obviously back in the day, after Jesse Owens' running career, I mean, they were matching him up with horses and things like that, so he could, replicate income. You guys are not in that position, but just, yeah, you get. How did this come up? Who started the jaw jacket that is going to bring this fan event, to pay-per-view?
Yeah. So I guess I was I was filming some content, doing these, like these videos to promote my ball and my brand and what have you. And I had this one photo or video that I put out where I'm running up the side of a mountain, right?
Mhm.
I have
Yes.
this theme music from the Bionic Man in the background.
Yes.
So okay. Oh, this is the Bionic Man, right? So I think I had my shirt off, what have you. And so McClinton Neal, who's a world class, my age,
Mhm.
intermediate hurler, close friends with Roy.
Mhm.
A couple of years ago, and they're both from Dallas. They challenged each other to a race, right? The
Okay.
150. So Roy Martin calls himself the Batman and the robot. He's two. He's both. And then McClinton Neal he's the Joker. So anyway, they had this big hype and they had a race. And I mean, they're friends, but they were just playing off each other, just challenging each other. This is about a year ago.
Sure.
And they ended up having this race in Texas. They ran a 150. I think Roy won. After that, Roy he was on one. So he, McClinton said, well, hey, Roy, you see Steve Lewis, he ran up the side of this mountain. And he's the Bionic Man. And you're the robot. So, you two should probably race. And then Roy said, yeah, I can beat the Bionic Man. And that's where it started. So he called me out on social media.
Oh no.
Which was the wrong thing to do, because then that's when I went all in, and you probably seen some of my videos. But so yeah, I mean the plan is to have a race, and he challenged me to a 400, right? And he was a 200. That was a specialist. He was a specialist in 200. I was 400. But people were suggesting to him, why don't you all both just run a 300, right? Because you were 4 and 3. He said, no, I want to beat him in his own race, and I'm going to come to California do it. And then he starts to call out all the California sprinters, and I'll take Quincy, I'll take Henry, I'll take Danny, I'll take Obi Moore, right? And I'm like, come on, man. And so that's when I'm like, okay, all right, so we're gonna do it then. And so that's where it happened. So he called me out, called out all the Cali sprinters, and putting up Texas against California, and I'm like, all right, so let's do it. So we'll see if it happens. Like I said, I stay ready so I don't have to get ready. So
absolutely.
My training partner, my daughter, we get at it. But I don't know. We'll see what the robot, his intentions are.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. Let me, well, on the way out the door here, let me ask you about being honored by UCLA in 2004, being inducted to the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame there at Drake Stadium, and tell us about that experience. How'd that feel full circle?
Yeah, it's just one of those things of, obviously you have, Olympics and the gold medal and all that was awesome, right? But when you can be recognized by any organization that you spent a lot of time representing, it's an honor, right? And so, and you think about the history at UCLA with the athletics, to be in that class. I mean, you're talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's, it's just so Florence Griffin Joyner, right? And so many great athletes. I don't know if you've been up into on the campus. So in the area they have the Hall of Fame, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, right? So to be in Rayford Johnson,
yes,
so to be amongst all these greats is an honor. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, that experience, and then you go in and you speak, and had all my family with me, right? And so everybody came out. We had our 2 tables full. But it was great. I mean, to be in there, even with my teammates, because Danny Everett's in there as well, Kevin Young's in there as well, people that I competed with. and we'll be together forever up there on UCLA campus in the Hall of Fame, right?
That's
So
wonderful.
that was great. That
That's
was
wonderful.
that was an awesome experience.
That's wonderful.
And then of course later, the USA Track and Field Hall of Fame, I got inducted
Yes.
in last year, which was great. And that was probably for me kind of put a bow on everything, because even when I gave my speech, I talked about everything that I went through to get to that point and my success. And then when you get inducted, they allow you to submit an item to represent you in the Hall of Fame at the Armory.
Mm.
And so at the end of my speech, I said, well, you know what, everything is full circle. And I'd like to present, I had my Los Angeles Jets singlet into the Hall of Fame to represent me, right? And so I just felt like it was the right thing to do. So if you go to the Armory, the Hall of Fame, you're going to see, hopefully, I gave it to him, my Los Angeles Jets singlet, and that's what Steve Lewis is about, right? Because that's where it started, and that's where I wanted to finish. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Man, that is absolutely wonderful. I'm gonna have a short break. I'm actually gonna interview Coach James here in about 30 minutes, and that's so exciting. I haven't talked to Coach Moore, recently in the last couple of years, but both those men they've just been so positive as an influence on myself as a young man. My Ralph Tilley at Dorsey High School is my uncle. Where our families grew up next door to each other. He and his sister and brother grew up next to my dad, and those two generations are side by side. And so I've spent a lot of time at Jackie Robinson Stadium, and Coach Moore always had a kind word. He could have 700 kids out there and always take a moment to say, "How you doing, young man? Everything all right? Just if you need anything, let me know." I'm like, "Coach, you got 9,000 things to deal with. Don't worry about it. I'm good." But just that foundation, and Steve, I just want to take time to honor you and thank you for your commitment to be just a light, man, just positive person, always putting out good content, being a great representative for your family, for all of your schools, UCLA, Hyde Park, the LA Jets, and American High School, and just thank you, man. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you again in the real world.
Yeah.
And,
maybe at race. Maybe you'll be at the race, Bionic Man against the robot.
Oh, I will be there.
Just show up.
No. I will be there. When we do this, I will be there. We might have to get it. If I'm, we might have to get it at my school. Since we're the only one training. Yeah. Maybe we can get a special approval to have you guys come.
Hey, all we need are 2 lanes, brother. We just need 2 lanes.
That's it. That's it.
2 lanes. That's all.
Set the camera up. Turn the camera. We had a big scoreboard. Turn that thing on and get it popping. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, Doc. Let me sign out, and then I'm gonna get some info from you. Guys, thank you for joining us here on I Represent the 2%. This is the Hall of Famer, USA Track and Field and UCLA, Steve the Bionic Man Lewis.